Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to look at the first of our two examples. Please bear with me. I am going to be going back and forth between this slide as well as the Inspire emulator. Okay, so here we're going to examine the relationship between exam scores, which will be our response variable, and numbers of days absence, which is going to be our explanatory variable. Each set of data is represented as an ordered pair, with the x being days absent, the y being the score on the exam. So to create the scatter plot, I'm going to go back into our calculator. And as you can see in my Inspire here, I can scroll up here. I'm entering the two variables. I listed first thing here is I went ahead and typed in all of our x variables, and I stored that as under the variable, sorry, I stored that under the variable absent. And then I stored all of the y variables, the scores, and I stored that under the variable scores. And then once they're stored as lists, and you can see here the ones below the format I used. So we're going to go ahead. Okay. I'm going to go into the graphing, and we're going to select under menu, the graph entry, and we're going to have scatter plot. And this one's going to show 3 because that happens to be the next scatter plot that I have, but I'm going to go up here, and here's one where I've typed in absent and I've typed in scores. You have to have both of them in and enter. Then I'm ready to go graph it, so I'm going to hit menu. Zoom, and I'm going to hit fit. Be careful using data. Data does work as well, but because I have multiple scatter plots in here, it doesn't actually switch them back and forth. And you can see here's our data of absent scores. And if you touch each one of them, you can see, shows the name. You can actually show multiple ones on here. And we can see from this data that here we have definitely a negative association, probably pretty moderately strong. So if we go back to our sheet here, okay, so we're going to put days absent down here. And we're going to put the scores here. These are in percents. These are just days. Okay, and we know the numbers goes up at about 20 or 25. Now, you guys can expect I don't want to take your time plotting a scatter plot. I'm pretty sure all of you are capable of doing that. So, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. All right. So 20, 40, 60, 80. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and plot it. I'm going to plot it a little quickly. So we know that we were seeing things like this. I expect you guys to plot a little more accurately in your notes, but I don't want to take your time up doing this. We know I believe there was one that looked like an outlier. So it was like going right there. Okay, but as you can see, we could definitely see a negative correlation, so negative association. Again, I can't use the word correlation. I'm often guilty of using that when I'm not supposed to. Negative association. Negative association. It's probably moderate. Moderate linear. Okay, so now we can go ahead and look at examining the correlation coefficient. Now, before we can do that, remember we have to check the three conditions. So the quantitative variable, we know we have days absent. So days absent, number of days absent, so that one's check. Scores, again a number, so it's check. So we are dealing with two quantitative variables. As we can see from our description, our scatter plot, it is linear. So it checks on that one. And we really have a possible outlier right here, but it's not really that off. So we're going to go ahead and check that one off as well. The outliers are dealt with, and it is linear. It is straight enough. So now we can go ahead and calculate the coefficient. Now we're not going to do this by hand, so we're going to go switch back over to our calculator. We're going to go back to this. Now, under the menu, we're going to look up our statistics. We're going to look up stat calculations. And we're going to look up linear regression. Now, there's two of them here. The typical MX split you're probably more familiar with, but we are going to use number 4. A plus BX. On an 84, I believe it's number 8. Okay, so we need to put our list in here. So our X list was absent. Absent. The variable is I'm just going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to call this one equation 1. Oh, I used the wrong variable. That was my fault. Let's go back and try that again. So this is absent. This is scores. I'm going to call this equation 1. No. And you here, give it the title. Hey, but what we're paying attention closely to is this R value. R value, which is our correlation factor, we see it's negative 0.803. So we'll go back to this. So our R is negative 0.803. Now, what does that tell us? Looking at that, it tells us that we have a strong negative correlation of about negative 0.80. So it's a decently strong correlation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was guided practice number 1. Thank you very much.